Hi, hello, welcome back. Nothing but the most advertiser safe and friendly topics over here on the Nickel Necco YouTube channel, I assure you. So, a few weeks ago, I believe it was, back earlier in June, the Stellar Blade PC port was released to market, and it reignited an older debate that's kind of been going on really since the game was announced back in like 2023. Initially, the game didn't really make much of a splash, but lo and behold, if you really want to have a social impact, you need to release your game on PC. And since then, there's been kind of an interesting, not really a shift, but almost a cultural Ouroboros, a repetition, if you will. I feel like I've been transported back in time to 2014, 15, back when I was still in high school, didn't have to pay any bills. What a good time. What a good time. But we got something called, that was called Gooner Gate, which didn't really end up amounting to anything, but it's kind of it's stuck around as this kind of annoying relic, almost, of an older time. It crops up from time to time, and it's slowly burrowing in and making itself a home in the gaming discourse, and it found an empty hole where the sexism accusation used to be. This happened with The Witcher 4, when people commented on, Ciri's change in appearance and everything like that. They were accused of being gooners. When the first Descendant came out, if you liked it or anything like that, you were accused of being a gooner. When Oblivion Remastered came out and people had complaints about, the available bust size in the game, you're called a gooner. It's becoming this kind of thing where if you have any commentary, really, on the state of games, or, something in a game, and it is even remotely to do with a female's appearance in the game, even if it's not, like, strictly speaking, to do with that. I mean, the whole Ciri thing with The Witcher 4 was broadly a lore complaint, but what happened was, two insane Andrew Tate fans, grossly reducing the issue, but you know what I mean. Like, a small vocal majority who did care about it said that she looked fat, and so immediately that became the narrative to attack is, oh, if you have problems with The Witcher 4, it's because you're a gooner. Which is ridiculous. Gooners become an insult, a slur, if you will, that basically just means somebody I don't like. They use it now in place of calling you a sexist, in place of calling you a racist, in place of calling you a gamergator. Instead, now they just call you a gooner. They imply that all you care about is, masturbating. So, with the recent release of Stellar Blade, I got to finally put some playtime behind it, and I found that I really enjoyed the game. Like, it's a fantastic game, and there is a review of the game in this video. It's just much later on. It's at the end. I'll put a timestamp up here, so you know where to go, if all you care about is the Stellar Blade review. But, broad strokes, I think you should go play it. It was a really fun game. It's a really good game, and I think it's worth the money. But, back to the discourse. Back to the actual topic of this video. Gooning. So, I went ahead, and because this was frustrating me so much, because it was being thrown around so willy-nilly, and I felt like it didn't really apply to a lot of stuff it was, getting applied to. People called... Obviously, Stellar Blade got called a gooner game, which I was like, okay, well, that's not really fair, but whatever. But they also called The Citadel a gooner game. Somebody who was, in the process of praising The Citadel, they called it a gooner shooter. And those of you who've been with me for a while, you know that I'm a really big fan of The Citadel. Seriously, if you like shooter games, go play The Citadel, go play Beyond Citadel right now. Pause the video, go buy it on Steam, go play it. They're great games. But he called it a gooner shooter, and I didn't really like that. I took a lot of issue with that. And as I'm, exploring that with myself, I came to the conclusion that the thing I don't like about it is that the gooner accusation, calling something a gooner game or a gooner shooter, it has a lot of implied baggage with that, and it makes it it lessens the game, as it were. You know, it reduces the image of the game in other people's mind by calling it a Gooner shooter. Because it makes them think, oh, all there is to this game is sexy women. And part of what really annoyed me about that is there are games where all it is sexy women, but I rarely see the title, the label of Gooner game applied to those games that are just sexy women. So I did what any reasonable, sane human being did. I took to the internet, looked up what a Gooner game was, and immediately ascribed to the AI overview definition, which is as follows. Gooner game is an internet slang term used to describe video games that heavily feature fan service or sexually suggestive content, often with a focus on character designs that appeal to a specific audience. The term is often used in online communities, particularly within gaming subreddits and social media. Now that's a very broad definition, and you might be saying, what's so broad about that definition? Well, I went ahead and I put together a handy-dandy list of Gooner games according to the Google AI definition, which I feel like is how most people use it, but they don't use it consistently. We're looking at you, Melanie Mac. So, by the definition given, we're just going to go down a quick list of games that would be Gooner games. Stellar Blade, the Nier series, Bayonetta, Tomb Raider, The First Descendant, The Citadel and Beyond Citadel, Head-On, Mass Effects 1 through 3, Cyberpunk 2077, The Witcher 1 through 3, Dragon Age games, Dead or Alive, Fallout 4, Atomic Heart, Overlord, Lollipop Chainsaw, No More Heroes, the Batman Arkham games, any fighting game made before 2016, the Blood Rain games, Signalis, Kingdom Under Fire games, literally any Final Fantasy game, Code Vein, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, Marvel Rivals, any Metal Gear Solid game, Resident Evils 4, 5, and 6, and you could probably make a case for earlier games. And, like, remember, the definition is basically sexy woman. If there is sexy woman in game, it is a Gooner game. So, I know that there's more than these ones I listed. I didn't want to spend all day making a list of these. So, if you feel that I missed a Gooner game by that definition, feel free to put it down in the comments. This is your call to action. And if you don't feel like I missed a Gooner game, then you should drop a like on the video to reward me for doing such a good job for not missing any Gooner games. But that's by that definition. Which, the problem that I have with that definition is it's far too loose. Right? That definition of a Gooner game is just, if a game has sexually explicit characters in it, or whatever, right? Then it's a Gooner game. And by calling it a Gooner game, that implies that if we take that definition and apply it to other products or mediums, those mediums would, by definition, also be Gooner products. For example, Gooner cigarettes, Gooner beer, Gooner sports, or dare I say, could it even be possible? I don't know. Gooner books. So as you see, the definition is far too broad. Far too broad to really be applied that way. It's a dumb definition, and that's why I say it's a slur. It's a slur. They're using it to call you names. They know that if they call you a sexist, they're just outing themselves as some psychotic Marxist ghost of 2014, right? They know that they're outing themselves as Anita Sarkeesian's strongest warrior. So instead, they call you a Gooner. They say, oh, you're just a Gooner. All you care about is jerking off. No, it's that if you have a game with a character creator, I should be able to give my character large breasts. Right? It doesn't have to be sexualized or whatever, right? Like, we use the Oblivion remaster example here. Why can't I give my character breasts over a, C cup? Like a low C. Why can't I have more than mosquito bites? But it's ridiculous. you know? I should be able to do that if I have a character creator. And you could do, literally, you could even do the Skyrim thing, right? Skyrim didn't have a breast slider. What Skyrim had was was like base body types for races. If you chose to play a Breton, you were going to have a small chest, and if you chose to play a Nord, you were going to have a large chest. And that's just the way it was. And what happens is, obviously players just go and mod these things in later on, which absolutely, like, if you're a gamer and a game isn't meeting, your needs or what you want, fucking mod it. You paid for the product. Or, if you comment on the fact that a character has been visually downgraded. Again, because this all applies to women, because all it really is, all any of this is it's an attack on male sexuality, right? Female sexuality is okay, male sexuality is bad. I don't really want to get into that whole discussion, because that branches far closer to politics than I really want to get. But needless to say, like, that's what it is. So for the majority of this video, we're going to be discussing this in the context of male sexuality. But so, if you comment on the fact that a character has been visually downgraded or made less attractive, not necessarily ugly, just less attractive. Frequently, they are made ugly. You can see literally any time. Star Wars Outlaws is a great example. The Last of Us 2, also a great example, where they have these characters in the games, and gamers see them and go, anti-woke gamers see them and go, oh, this is so woke. They made all the chicks ugly. And then crazy, insane leftist Marxists go, oh, no, they didn't, because look, they literally just body scanned the model. See, here's a picture of the model. I bet you feel stupid now, chuddy. But what happens is you look at it and they took the model and just, like, mugged her with the mid-stick. Like, like the actual picture of the model looks way better than the end game product. Which displays a level of malice. But you get accused of being a gooner for noticing that. You're just like, well, why did you make her less attractive? And the reason they accuse you of being a gooner is because the answer to why did you make her less attractive is, well, we wanted BlackRock money. We wanted ESG money. We wanted to score well on Blizzard's, diversity stat spread. We wanted to do well according to the Marvel Comics anti-sexualization body design philosophy. All of these are real things, by the way. But so I've come to a conclusion. This is a rambly video, I know, but I've come to a conclusion, right? Because the official, quote unquote official definition of what a Gooner game is too broad, right? That being of, a game that heavily features fan service or sexually suggestive content with a focus on character designs that appeal to a specific audience, i.e. a male audience. I came up with my own definition that I feel like is much better. It's a much firmer definition. So I'm going to give you that definition, and then we're going to talk about the games that appeal to, or that fit that definition. A Gooner game, by my definition, is a game that heavily features sexual content or is clearly geared towards sexually gratifying or pornographic purposes at a base or vanilla level of game design. So that's the broad definition. Let me give you some examples of kind of what I'm talking about there, though. So these would be things that, like, feature a gallery of explicit scenes or models, right? They have explicit X-rated nudity, sexually provocative and or revealing costumes, an autoplay feature that frees up player hands for, additional features we might count would be features that are intended for compatibility with sex toys. And then the important thing to this definition is it should feature some degree of an actual game. Because otherwise it's not a Gooner game, it's just porn. Right? Just straight up. So like visual novels, that's just hentai. That's all it is. Okay, there is no game. You hit space to move to the next slide, and frequently they have an autoplay function. Go figure. Right? So that's the definition we've got. Is basically a game that is geared towards and caters to the needs and convenience of shall we say, self-gratifying actions and behaviors on behalf of the player. So some games that actually qualify by that definition. Subverse, right? Actual game, it's got top-down turn-based strategy gameplay, and it's got, bullet hell Galaga style gameplay. But then it's also got like sex scenes that you can stitch together in a playlist and have run on autoplay. Okay, it's a fully fleshed out game, just with also a fully fleshed out porn system. Nike, Goddess of Victory, right? So this one, made by the same producers, published by the same studio. It's like Phase Up, Connect Up, whatever. The same people that did Stellar Blade cut their teeth on Nike, Goddess of Victory. It's a phone gacha game. And the game is not explicitly pornographic, but it is obviously meant to scintillate your senses, right? All of the women have huge, vast tracts of land, shall we say, in revealing outfits. And then all the gameplay is just them squatting behind cover, so you've got a nice view of their tracts of land. And then it's got an autoplay feature, so you don't even have to play the game. You can just watch it for reasons. Okay, Honey Pop, any of the games. It's a match 3 game, quote-unquote game, that rewards you with explicit scenes. Bastard Bonds. It's like a full-on RPG, okay? Like just top-down, isometric RPG. You go around, turn-based combat, complete quests, whatever, but also porn scenes. The Galgun games, right? A little bit less explicit, but the purpose of the games, it's a rail shooter, with the purpose of the games being sucking the clothes off of girls. That's a Gooner game. Okay, there's a lot of these where in an actual Gooner game, the gooning aspect and the gameplay aspect usually don't intersect, right? I've got a few more here. Demonica, Captain Firehawk in the Laser Love situation. Hentai Hacker, Get to Work, Succubus Chan, Dungeon Vixens, any gacha game. I mean, there's a ton. There's a ton, right? There's loads more. You get the idea. What happens in all these games is they segregate gameplay section from the gooning section. And that's why it's a Gooner game. Goon or game, if you will. There is a gameplay section. You have to play the game to unlock the gooning. But at the end of the day, it's set up for you to jack off to. There is no such function in Stellar Blade. There is no such function in First Descendant. There's no such function in Bayonetta, Tomb Raider, The Citadel, Head-On, Mass Effect, The Witcher, Atomic Heart, Overlord, Kingdom Under Fire, Signalis. None of these games that I mentioned earlier have these functions. They are just fully fleshed games that just also integrate a degree of sexuality into the art that they've created. Okay? Mass Effect 3 has actual sex scenes. It has an actual in-game strip club. Nobody calls it a Gooner game. Stellar Blade just has one character that wears sexy costumes. Sometimes, not even all the costumes are like super sexualized, but it has one character that wears sexy costumes and is called a Gooner game. There are no sex scenes in Stellar Blade. There is no stripping, there's no dance emote, there's no free fly camera. Like even the in-game photo system, unless I'm just grossly misunderstanding it, it's just a selfie. Like, you can't even get pictures of Eve's ass with it. Okay? The Witcher 3. Full-on sex scenes, graphic nudity all the time. The Witcher 1 through 3. Right? The Witcher games will just jump you with the sexual content sometimes. You don't even know it's coming. But nobody calls the Witcher games Gooner games. The Dragon Age games, Gooner games. Nobody calls them that, though. The Batman Arkham games. Here's Harley Quinn. Here's Catwoman. Here's Poison Ivy. Here's Talia al Ghul. Does anybody call the Batman Arkham games Gooner games? No. Because the purpose of the game isn't gooning, and everybody knows it. Here's Blood Rain from the Blood Rain games. It's literally the same shit as Stellar Blade. The character is meant to be sexy. She is meant to be attractive. She's meant to be beautiful. But you can't jerk off and play the game at the same time. And the devs know that. There is no in-game gallery. There's no emoting or anything like that. It is blow for blow the same basic thing as Stellar Blade. The Final Fantasy games. Okay, you're gonna take any of the characters from the Final Fantasy games, any of the female characters from the Final Fantasy games, and you're gonna say Eve from Stellar Blade is more of a Gooner game character than them? It's pure undiluted hypocrisy. So, to kind of recap here, to pull the curtain to the side, again, on my opponents, to flip the rock over so you can see the insects wriggling underneath, they use Gooner game and porn game as synonyms, because they are. Like, spiritually speaking, they are. Right? If I tell you something is a Gooner game, something you've never played, if I say, for example, anybody here who hasn't played Subverse, you have to take me at my word when I say that's a Gooner game. But what are you thinking of? Well, you're imagining a porn game. And that's why people call games they don't like Gooner games. That's why they call people with, opinions or observations they don't like Gooners. They want to imply a spiritual and or moral deficiency without having the baggage of us being able to go, like, well, because if they called Stellar Blade a porn game, you'd say, well, no, there's no, like, sex, there's no porn, there's not even hand-holding. Right? So they don't want to have to uphold the definition of porn, but they still want you to associate the product with porn, so that you go, if I buy that game, people are gonna think I'm gross. If I publicly admit to liking that game, people are gonna think I'm gross. When a game is labeled as a Gooner game, it is expressed to an ignorant outsider that the game's only offering is sexual gratification. That's typically just straight up untrue. I've never seen an actual Gooner game get called a Gooner game. First Descendant is not a Gooner game. First Descendant is a game where they used hot models for the female characters, and they wear, like, kind of revealing outfits. But you can't, like, it's a full-fledged game. Like, do you think you could jack off while you play Destiny? Then you can't jack off while you play the First Descendant. So to be clear, the games that do get called Gooner games, these are games that are using sexualization as a form of advertising, in essence. The sexualization of Eve in Stellar Blade is not important to the game. Eve doesn't have to be, super scantily clad. They could dress her in, like, modest coveralls and like battle armor and stuff like that, and it's not super sexy, and the story would play out the same, it would be unaffected. But the reason they do it is because that Eve's character design is what separates Stellar Blade from literally every other Souls-like on the market. The First Descendants character design is what sets it apart from Warframe and Destiny, the games that it's blatantly ripping off. Okay, sexualization in games is a form of advertising to get you in the door. You don't stick around for the sexualization, though. You stick around because it's a good game. So what does all this Gooner talk have to do with Stellar Blade? Well, Stellar Blade, much like every other digital product, released from the Asian continent in like the last 3 years, faced significant institutional resistance and backlash upon announcement alone. The gaming industrial complex did everything in their power to try to bury the game in negative coverage and controversy, even using the previously discussed Gooner brand to attempt to shame potential players from buying the game, or at least from the game being able to be seriously discussed and compared to Western products. However, since its PS5 release, and reinforced by the recent PC port, it's been obvious that the games industry failed in this attempt to basically assassinate a new up-and-coming game studio, and now they're just desperately backtracking and ending up giving these half-hearted ratings and backhanded compliments. I find this to be very toxic and hypocritical behavior when you consider that this is coming from the crowd that clapped and cheered like seals for the gay vampire fucking a literal bear. I'm going to say that again. They clapped, cheered, and drooled over bestiality. So, I created this video to expose and to quash the Gooner narrative surrounding Stellar Blade and to give it its just praises. Stellar Blade has been out for a while now, so I'll keep this review brief and simple. Stellar Blade is a combination action RPG hack and slash with Souls-like elements. Much of the game outside of combat centers around these collectathon missions and platforming challenges and fishing. It's a very reasonably sized game with great graphical fidelity and even a games journalist mode if you're more of a lover than a fighter. The combat is fun and challenging, only occasionally getting frustrating or repetitive. It's a very well-paced game right up until the final act, where the game says, "Are you sure you want to go? You won't be able to come back," and then there's still 5 more hours of content to go. Some of the voice work is also weak, but that's easily remedied just by going to your settings and swapping the audio to your preferred Asian voice actors. These dubs might also be bad, but, since I can't understand them, it doesn't really bother me. Stellar Blade is a spiritual successor and a love letter to the Nier game series, and it's well worth the price. If you're curious if it's for you and want to ensure that you're not just getting into another shallow goon pool, I have 3 VODs of my streams playing it on my second channel, and I'm sure whoever your favorite creator is has also streamed it by now. If not, may I recommend you check out Arch's playthroughs, links in the description. And with that, that's the video. Thanks for dropping by, There's not really much else to say. There's not really much else to discuss, to talk about on this matter. I really like Stellar Blade. I think it's a great game, and I think you should play it. And I think it's unfairly maligned as a Gooner game. And I felt the need to educate my audience as to the realities of what the Gooner label is, what it implies. As far as upcoming projects, I know it's been a really long time since I made a video. I'm sorry. I've been out of it. I'm gonna be honest. I've been slacking. What you can expect coming out? A lot of slop content like this. I'm gonna be honest. I'm working on just essentially training consistency into myself, because it's not a recipe for success for me to spend 6 months on an individual video with nothing in between all the time. I just can't do it. Shouldn't do it. It's too much. It's too much, and I'm not a diligent enough worker for that to be valid anyways. So, you know, coming up soon, you got a lot of fan theory crafting, got a lot of making fun of games journalists, and if you ever want more Nickel Neko content, you can check out my Twitch channel. I'm currently working on getting set up to do multi-platform streams so I can stream over here on YouTube as well. There's just some hurdles there that I have to, actually drag my ass through to do. But I thank you all for dropping by. I hope you enjoyed the video. Feel free, of course, to tell me your thoughts. That's what the comment section is there for. And as a small YouTuber such as myself, I have nothing better to do than to read your comments. So thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye-bye.